let the judges introduce themselves, and then they're going to ask you to introduce yourselves.
Try that again. Hello, Isaac, Tiffany, and Chase. I think that's who you are. My name is Tandy McConnell. I was a professor of history at Columbia College in South Carolina for about 20 years before, actually, about a few years ago, I decided to do something really interesting and decided to become a middle school social studies teacher. Right now, I'm teaching high school, but I'm really delighted to be here with you guys. Is Gahanna, Ohio, anywhere near Cambridge, Ohio?
It's about an hour away. It's about an hour west of Cambridge. It's outside Columbus.
I spent one or two summers working, I can't remember now, working in Cambridge, Ohio, a very long time ago. So it's a beautiful part of Ohio, beautiful part of the country, all that, the area you are in. So I'll ask my colleague if she will introduce herself.
My name's Rita McCannon. I'm a lawyer in Huntsville, Alabama, and I'm so glad to see you today. I look forward to hearing from you.
And would you introduce yourselves and introduce your teacher, please?
Sure, I'll go first. I'm Isaac Amon, and this is our teacher, Mr. Browning.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Kelly.
And let's see, Chase, can you introduce yourself? You need to unmute your mic. Okay, I'm not sure we can hear Chase.
Microphone is unmuted, so I'm not sure why we can't hear him.
Okay, well, maybe we can just, maybe Chase just we'll work that out in just a minute. Let's go ahead and get started. We're your Unit 2 judges. We're interested in the things that shaped the founders' thinking about government. We're asking question number 1. This is according to Alexander Hamilton. The Confederation itself is defective and requires to be altered. It is neither fit for war nor peace. Do you agree or disagree with Alexander Hamilton? What were the strengths and weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation? What problems, if any, did the founders face in writing the Articles of Confederation? What impact, if any, did Shays' Rebellion have on the founders' thinking about government? And what is the significance of the Northwest Ordinance of 1787? If you're ready, please begin.
The Articles of Confederation were the construct of the new American nation following its independence from Britain. They are among the most critical documents in national history. Britain's disciplinary influence greatly affected the vision for leadership in America. The precise point was that people should have power. As Thomas Jefferson stated, no government can continue good under the control of the people. Unfortunately, under the people, the Articles of Confederation elicited a disorganization of the states, forming internal tension and financial issues. With Alexander Hamilton stating, the Confederation itself is defective and requires to be altered, it is neither fit for war nor peace, it is fair to recognize change was necessary.
During the Articles of Confederation's development, the founders shared a general dilemma. They essentially formed a government with no prior experience and minimal room for trial and error. Due to Britain's oppressive nature, the founding fathers wanted to create a fair national system, unintentionally building a faulty government. The U.S. citizens expected a government to provide them with a voice. It was challenging to give the national government power without upsetting the country. Eventually, the founders chose to satisfy the citizens over the national system, believing it would bring forth a sturdy government. However, a financial dilemma the founders oversaw arose. The national government had no authority to impose a well-needed tax. Considering the founders were attempting to create a government with equality in leadership, money would be drastic. As the financial and public difficulties arose left and right, necessary laws still needed 9 out of 13 state votes, slowing much-needed progress.
Shays' Rebellion exposed the lack of security within the Articles of Confederation, the internal conflict itself barely being settled. With an aggressive tax placed on the people, the founders were oblivious to the expenses told until citizens retaliated. Shays' Rebellion produced an array of violence meant to send a national message regarding the prices. However, the message sent ended up concerning the absence of national reaction. With the national government failing to react appropriately, the rebellion continued unimpeded. The rebellion itself targeted political buildings, including attacks on courthouses and various government properties within Massachusetts. The citizens acted irrationally, fearing that they may lose their right to vote if the taxes took their land. As a result, the founders' understanding of a national government altered. They prioritized fortifying a national force and protecting the people's rights. The Articles of Confederation, as Cambridge University professor James Tolley stated, was simply too weak to protect individual liberties and interests. Shays' Rebellion had exposed the Articles of Confederation's issues, creating a stepping stone toward the Constitution.
The Northwest Ordinance started in 1785 and led into 1787, making the Ordinance of 1787 more significant as it produced a simple solution for the government to provide citizens with Western land. With the nation's growing territory, it became critical the country's residents bought and occupied the new land throughout 1787. The Northwest Ordinance produced the first legal binding document outlawing slavery in each district. The Northwest Ordinance protected civil liberties of the Northwest Ordinance produced the first legal binding document outlawing slavery in each district. The Northwest Ordinance protected civil liberties of a class unvalued at the time, allowing for Thomas Jefferson's "all men are created equal" to become relevant once more. The Northwest Ordinance granted U.S. citizens access to pre-public school education as well. Citizens preceding 1787 were not known for quality public education. Furthermore, the Northwest Ordinance outlined a path between territories towards statehood, modern constitution. When the population totaled 60,000 residents, the territory could implement an aim for statehood with guaranteed equality toward the original 13 states.
That's it.
Okay, great initial presentation. Let's look at some of the details here. You talked about let me get my notes here. You talked about Shays' Rebellion. What exactly was Shays' Rebellion? Can you tell me about the when, what, where, and why? What was it? What was it about? What was the outcome?
If my teammates are not willing to go, I'd like to first say that Shays' Rebellion, it was primarily about the tax imposed on the farmers that become the Arthurian itself. They were trying to get money in taxes through a governmental way that was inefficient at the time, as taxes from Britain's previous reign were just mainly frowned upon in the United States. They were forced to.
So tell me, why did Congress not intervene in this rebellion? Why did Congress leave it for Massachusetts to resolve this rebellion? I mean, that seems to be kind of slack on the part of Congress. Why did Congress not do something?
Great question. Congress was unable to do something as the Articles of Confederation had an ineffective national army. As there wasn't a federal system in place, it exposed the lack of security within the Articles of Confederation.
So you're telling me that Congress had no power to do anything, is that right? Under the article.
Sorry, what were you saying, Tiffany?
Yes. So the Articles of Confederation was like really weak, and it couldn't like efficiently like solve problems, and like it just was like hard to get anything done with like you could only ask for money. You can't ask you can't like tell people they have to give you money. You can only ask.
Good. Thank you. Good deal. Thank you so much. I want to kind of pass the baton back to Ms. McCannon.
Hayes, did I see you unmute yourself like you were going to try to answer?
Yeah, I was just gonna add on another point.
We can hear him.
Go ahead.
Please do.
I was just gonna say with what she said about how they were trying to get power, it was because it was like the starting point, so they had very little experience. But since they chose to give the people the power, they did not really have the power to impose taxes and place taxes on people. And so if they could not place a tax on people, it would be very difficult for them to get money.
Okay. Tandy, did you want to follow up with another question?
No, go ahead, please.
Thanks. Let me ask you, I'm gonna switch gears just a tiny bit. You mentioned the Northwest Ordinance, and I wondered if you could tell me what the most significant measure that the Northwest Ordinance brought about in 1787.
I definitely believe that the most important thing the Northwest Ordinance gave to everyone was it outlawed slavery, like where it was, like, so that was like the first time ever that had ever been a thing in the United States, and it's ever been outlawed before.
Although I do see where my teammate is coming from, I personally believe the most important, the most significant feature of Northwest Ordinance at the time was allowing for townships to apply for statehood, as the United States of America was primarily built on the multiple states at the time, with its own singular governments following under the national government.
Let's think. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
I just wanted to think about that for a little bit longer. Since I would agree with you that that is among the most, that is certainly significant. Does that principle still apply? Do you think that among the various territories governed by the United States but that are not among the United States, should they have an opportunity to seek full statehood? First of all, can you think of any places that might apply to? They're part of the United States, but they're not states.
I certainly believe I do. As one example that comes to my mind would be the District of Columbia, our national capital. I do see how that may become a little bit of a problem, how if it is a territory but has not been yet applied for statehood. I do believe recently in the news there has been some debate on, it's been passed through the House, if our capital should become a state, as it is a territory, but it is our national capital, but yet it's not a state. So I still believe that does apply to this day, the Northwest Ordinance.
Do you think should we support DC statehood, or does that become problematic, do you think? But that's purely your opinion.
I believe that DC should not apply for the state just because of how many resources they all have towards the government. That could get very controversial compared to the other states.
I would agree. Oh, you can say something?
Controversial in what way? I'm just curious.
Just because it's like so close to like the White House and the Capitol building, just like all of the major buildings and major like
I can see
major
that.
like people and stuff.
Good point. I apologize for interrupting. Go ahead.
I
Okay.
definitely would agree with Tiffany on this matter. If our nation's capital was given statehood rather than being integrated as a district within another state, it could come off as one state could hold authority all over the other 50 states, rather than all men created equal and no one is more superior than the other. Such as if Washington, D.C. stayed as a district, it would be integrated in another state, and there's no state that reigns over all the others. It is only our federal government.
Hey, let me argue with you just a little bit. If they had 2 senators and they had a representative because of the population, maybe even 2 representatives in the House of Representatives, how are they going to be so much stronger than another state, than Rhode Island or Delaware or Wyoming or even Alabama? How are they going to be so much stronger?
I would believe they would, in concept, be stronger, as with what Tiffany mentioned. Most of our Capitol buildings were sorry, there's some hair in my mouth, where most of our most important documents and a lot of history is in this one district. If this were to become state, although it does have an equal amount of representatives, it may become corrupt as our nation's capital is there with the House of Representatives and the Senate, as there is none other in the other 49 states, or if it were to become state 50. That's how I believe it may view itself as superior.
So does anybody want to take an alternative to that point of view? We have less than a minute left. Never mind. Never mind. I knew as soon as I asked the question it would
Oh,
pop
I
up.
had already held it up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought I left it up long enough, but you might have just been looking at it.
You don't expect me to actually be paying attention. I'm trying to scribble everything down. I'm not looking at the screen adequately. So I thought that was great. Good discussion. Good. I think you're going to find that your judges will disagree with you, and that's all right to have judges disagree with you. Because, yes, you make a valid point that there's, a lot of power concentrated in Washington, but the vast majority of Washingtonians are, they car mechanics and or salespeople, or, they just do all the ordinary working things that working people do. And so, and they pay their taxes and they don't have representation in Congress, and Congress can set the rules for Washington, D.C., including deciding whether, they can call out their own National Guard, which became an issue on January 6th. So yeah, that's an issue, and it's fun to talk about those things. But you certainly, you seem to know what you were talking about. You had a very well organized presentation and just a great discussion. So I enjoyed being here with you guys.
Thank you.
Too, I appreciated that. It's been very obvious to me how much, obviously all the teams, but in particular, you all have worked to put together a presentation for us. And you talked about the things that we expected, but then you also were able to answer questions in a very detailed way. And I appreciated the fact that we didn't get around to asking you all of our questions, but the ones we did ask, you had a ready answer for. And you supported each other. And Chase, when you were able to get through, you did get through and you participated, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate y'all not being shook by the technical difficulties. We've had this for a year, going on a little more than a year now, that we have technical difficulties all the time. And I hope you did not let it become a problem up here, but it certainly was not a problem for us. So I appreciated what you knew and the fact that you developed an opinion and the reasoning behind it. You obviously have thought things through and you had reasoning. Good job. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Browning, for getting them here today.